I'd like to now talk about the Eductor tank. With your famous Davy Arbor Green product, this is a really critical component of your truck. And we've upgraded the Eductor tank this year from last year. We're now looking at 15 gallons, so it gives you a lot more room to work with. However, that's also a potential problem, and I'll address that in a minute. The Eductor tank is hooked into this pressure manifold here, and the valve that operates the Eductor tank is located on this pressure valve. And this is basically tied to the large 60-gallon per minute tank. In order to have the Eductor system work, first of all, you have to be using a tank and you have to be pumping. You can pick any tank you want. It can be the 500-gallon tank, it can be the 200-gallon tank, but you have to have liquid going through the system before you can use the Eductor tank. Once you have liquid going through the system, then you open the Eductor valve here on this manifold, and you want to do that kind of slowly because you're building very high pressure into the bottom of that tank. So, and you will hear a sound as you build pressure. Now, how much pressure should you use? Right here on the tag it says no more than 300 psi. And we say that because when this is a high pressure system. When this regulator is on and you turn this handle to crank up the pressure, if you crank this up to about 600 psi and then you open this Eductor handle here on the pressure manifold, the pressure will drop out down to about 300 psi. And that's the operating pressure that you want to use this. Now, the other thing that you need to be aware of is that you need then to choose what tank you want the contents of the Eductor to go into. So once you actually have water going through the system, you can pick any target tank that you would like. You can put it into either of the 200-gallon tanks, the 500-gallon tank, or the 60-gallon tank. So then you would choose, once the Eductor is running, ultimately which tank you would want to put that contents of the Eductor tank into. However, before we get started on that, we need to have something in the Eductor tank. So, and you can do this while you hear the sound in the Eductor tank, because right now it's just taking liquid through the Eductor tank and it's just putting it back into the same tank that you're using as a source tank. And nothing's going to happen until we open this valve here on the bottom. So I can put my product in here. Now, a warning about heavy granular products, Davy Arbor Green. You cannot put an entire bag here at one time, most likely. You're liable to get it to bridge. So what we recommend is that you put a small amount in, maybe a quarter of a bag or something like that. Then you can open this valve down here. And once you open this valve, this actually starts to educt whatever's in this tank out into whatever your target tank is. If you close that, it stops. Now, you can also open this in advance and actually have this open before you start to pour your Davy Arbor Green or whatever your powder or granular product is into this tank. And then as you pour it in, it'll be sucked out. So you'll be pouring it in and it'll be sucking out all at the same time. When you're finished adding the product, the Eductor is still working. There's actually a rinse valve back here, and you can actually open this valve and you can rinse out this tank, get any additional sediments or residues out of the tank before you close this valve. When you're finished, you simply close the valve and you're done. Now, I did mention just a moment ago, there's also a drain on this particular tank. If I were to take this quick connect off right here, and it's a regular hydraulic fitting, you just pull it apart. But anyway, this hose comes right off of here. So if there's a problem, you need to clean it, there's some issue with it, you can easily disconnect it here and drain the contents out of the tank. When you're finished with the Eductor tank then, you want to come back to your high pressure manifold and you want to close this Eductor valve so that you've taken all that pressure that the Eductor system was consuming and now you've got it back into your spray system so you have it available to do production with.